The idea is you can have whatever you want, but you have to figure out what it is. It has to be realistic, and you have to figure out what it is. What do you want from your family? What do you want from your friends? How are you going to educate yourself? What do you want for your career? How are you going to use your time outside of work? How are you going to handle drugs and alcohol and other temptations like that? How are you going to keep yourself mentally and physically healthy? And these are open questions, like you get to answer them. It's okay, so now develop a vision. What's your life going to be like in 3 to 5 years? So you write it down. Then we do something else, which is, okay, your bad habits and your resentment and your bitterness and all of that, your procrastination gets completely out of hand, and you auger down, and you're in your own personal version of hell in 3 to 5 years. What does that look like? Well, everyone knows that. It's like everyone can look into the future and think, well, if I keep going on this dark path, this is where I'll end up. Well, then you've got little hell outlined for yourself to run away from, and you got a little heaven outlined for yourself to run towards, and then you're motivated. Because sometimes, you know, you're just hopeful. I would like a good thing to happen. It's like, yeah, but you know, I'd like to drink half a bottle of whiskey tonight too. It's like, so which is it going to be? Well, just being hopeful about the future might not be enough, but then you think, oh, I see, like, there's that little hell thing that I outlined that's waiting for me. And maybe I'm afraid of taking the next step forward because it's demanding and challenging. It's like, yeah, I'm afraid of that, but I'm way more afraid of where I might end up if I don't get my act together. And people should be. That's why there are conceptions of hell in so many religions. It's like, hell's a real place. Whether it's eternal, that's a whole different question. Whether it's waiting for you in the afterlife, that's a whole different question. But if you've never met anyone in hell, you haven't lived very long. You haven't had your eyes open.
Yeah, it's undeniable. That feeling of total, complete misery is undeniable.
Yeah, especially when it's compounded by the fact that you know you did it to yourself.
Yes.
That's the real fun. That's the real fun part. It's like, I'm having a bitch of a time and I richly deserve it.
This is another, I mean, this is a giant part of being a human being. And instead of identity politics and right versus left, I think these right versus left battles, oftentimes what they are is simply the battleground for the conflicts in your own mind.
There's evil in the world of all sorts, and some of it's the evil in other people, and some of it's the evil in your brother's heart. But the part of it that you can really do something about, that's the malevolence in your own heart. You can actually do something about that, and that's actually way more useful than you think. And that also makes you strong enough to identify it and to fight it when you see it in the external world. Plus, you don't do any harm. It's like there's lots of people all over the world going out and doing reprehensible things, and you might say, well, you should go out and protest against them. Like, then sometimes you should. But most of the time you should think, where am I falling short of the ideal? My own ideal. Doesn't have to be one that someone puts on you. Where am I less than I should be? Where am I bitter? Where am I making the world a worse place than it has to be? Like, you ask yourself those questions, you'll be in for a big shock. Say, well, what would happen if you stopped doing that? Like, stop saying things that make you weak. Stop telling lies that you know to be lies. Stop doing things you know to be useless and counterproductive. Aim high. Adopt some responsibility. And then see what the hell happens. And one of the things that I've also been telling people, informing people about, is the idea that life isn't a game. It's a series of games. And the right ethic is to be the winner of the series of games. And part of that means you have to learn how to be a good loser, because you're not going to win every single game.
Well, you also have to embrace those losses as learning experiences. And the people that have never lost are afraid of losing. They're afraid of learning. You're afraid of that feeling, that terrible feeling that you get from losing is so beneficial.
Let's say that you can pick your level of competition in life to some degree. Okay, so let's say you pick a level of competition where you're always winning. It's like, well, all that means is you've picked the wrong level of competition.
Yes.
Because, you know, like, let's say you're a grandmaster chess player and all you do is play amateurs, and every night you go home and congratulate yourself on what a genius you are because you just stomp these people left, right, and center. It's like, you're not a genius, you're a dimwit.
Right.
What you should be doing is playing people who are beating you, like, well, as much as you can tolerate.
Right.
So maybe that's 40% of the time, maybe it's 60% of the time. But that way, because to be a winner, you want to be disciplined, you want to know what you're doing, and then you want to be on the edge where your skills are being developed. And if you're going to be on the edge where your skills are going to be developed, you're at a place where losing is always a possibility, because otherwise you're not pushing yourself beyond your current capacity. Think about your life along 6 dimensions. So the goal is this: you're going to take care of yourself. You're going to have a life in 3 years that justifies its suffering. That's the goal. So you can invent the damn life, but you have to think what you would be satisfied with so you wouldn't be all bitter and resentful. It's like, okay, what do you want from your family? What do you want from your friends? How are you going to educate yourself? What do you want for your career? How are you going to use your time outside of work? How are you going to handle drugs and alcohol and other temptations like that? How are you going to keep yourself mentally and physically healthy? And these are open questions, like you get to answer them. The idea is you can have whatever you want, but you have to figure out what it is. It has to be realistic, and you have to figure out what it is. It's okay, so now develop a vision. What's your life going to be like in 3 to 5 years? So you write it down. Your bad habits and your resentment and your bitterness and all of that, your procrastination gets completely out of hand, and you auger down, and you're in your own personal version of hell in 3 to 5 years. What does that look like? Well, everyone knows that. It's like everyone can look into the future and think, well, if I keep going on this dark path, this is where I'll end up. Well, then you've got little hell outlined for yourself to run away from, and you got a little heaven outlined for yourself to run towards, and then you're motivated. Because sometimes, you're just hopeful. I would like a good thing to happen. It's like, yeah, but I'd like to drink half a bottle of whiskey tonight too. It's like, so which is it going to be? Well, just being hopeful about the future might not be enough, but then you think, oh, I see, like, there's that little hell thing that I outlined that's waiting for me. And maybe I'm afraid of taking the next step forward because it's demanding and challenging. It's like, yeah, I'm afraid of that, but I'm way more afraid of where I might end up if I don't get my act together. And people should be. That's why there are conceptions of hell in so many religions. It's like, hell's a real place. Whether it's eternal, that's a whole different question. Whether it's waiting for you in the afterlife, that's a whole different question. But if you've never met anyone in hell, you haven't lived very long. You haven't had your eyes open. But most of the time you should think, where am I falling short of the ideal? My own ideal. Doesn't have to be one that someone puts on you. Where am I less than I should be? Where am I bitter? Where am I making the world a worse place than it has to be? Like, you ask yourself those questions, you'll be in for a big shock. You say, well, what would happen if you stopped doing that? Stop saying things that make you weak. Stop telling lies that you know to be lies. Stop doing things you know to be useless and counterproductive. Aim high. Adopt some responsibility. And then see what the hell happens. You want to lay your life out so that it's providing you what you need to not be bitter and to work for your best interests and for the interests of everyone else. That would be lovely. And I think it's attainable. And one of the things that I've also been telling people, informing people about, is the idea that life isn't a game. It's a series of games. And the right ethic is to be the winner of the series of games. And part of that means you have to learn how to be a good loser. Let's say that you can pick your level of competition in life to some degree. Okay, so let's say you pick a level of competition where you're always winning. It's like, well, all that means is you picked the wrong level of competition.
Yes.
To be a winner, you want to be disciplined, you want to know what you're doing, and then you want to be on the edge where your skills are being developed. And if you're going to be on the edge where your skills are going to be developed, you're at a place where losing is always a possibility. Because otherwise you're not pushing yourself beyond your current capacity. One of the things that I've outlined in 12 Rules for Life is a theory of meaning. Because meaning, as far as I'm concerned, the sense of meaningful engagement is the antidote to malevolence and suffering, essentially. Because you want to have a life that's so engaging that you think, despite the fact that I'm limited and that we're mortal and that life is tragedy and there's evil in the world, despite all that, this is worth doing. Life is suffering and betrayal in many senses of the word. But you can adopt a way of traversing through life that is more powerful than the tragedy and the malevolence. Get your act together. Stand up forthrightly. That's rule 1. Stand up straight with your shoulders back. It's a vulnerable position, right? Because you're open. But it's a powerful position because it means that you're brave enough to take what's coming. And it isn't like what's coming isn't dangerous. It's dangerous. But your best bet is to be dancing on your feet and ready for it. Pay attention and be awake. There is inequality. What that means is there's always going to be people around that are better at something than you are. And that's a problem, because you can get jealous and you can get bitter and you can get resentful, and worse, you can get hopeless. You have to be careful who you compare yourself to. Now, you can't just not compare yourself to successful people, right? Because then you don't have anything to aim at. You need an ideal because you have nothing to aim at, but an ideal is a judge, and you always fall short of the ideal. So how the hell can you have the benefits of having an ideal without having the crushing blow that goes along with having the judge that always regards you as insufficient? And this is something I've had to work out a lot as a clinical psychologist. Like, well, let's say you need a goal, but we don't want to let your distance from the goal crush you. So you got to set up a goal, and then you got to make the goal, break the goal down into parts so that you can move towards it and you have a fairly high likelihood of doing it. It's some practical knowledge about how to go about achieving an aim. Set a high aim, but differentiate it down so you know what the next step is, and then make the next step difficult enough so you have to push yourself past where you are, but also provide yourself with a reasonable probability of success. It's also what you do with children, right? You want to push them because they need to grow up and be more than they are, right? But you don't want to crush them with constant failure. So what you do is aim high and make the goal difficult but proximate. So anyways, so that's one way of looking at it. But then the next thing is, you know, I've had clients, many clients in their 30s, who are trying to, this is more true with women, I would say. A lot of women who are very high achieving, who established their career goals at 30, and then want to differentiate out their life. They want to have a husband, they want to have a family, they're trying to figure out how to do that. And one of the things I've noticed that around 30, you really have to stop comparing yourself in some ways to other people. And the reason for that is that the particularities of your life are so idiosyncratic that there isn't anyone really all that much like you, you know, because the details of your life happen to matter. And so maybe you compare yourself to some rock star or something like that, and you know, the person's rich and famous and glamorous and all that, but you know, they're alcoholic and they use too much cocaine and they've had 3 divorces, and it's like, how the hell do you make sense out of that? Is that someone that you should judge yourself harshly against or not? The answer is you don't know, because you don't know all the details of their lives. And who do you know that you can compare yourself to? That's easy. You. Yesterday. So here's a good goal. It's something like, well, aim high. And I really mean that. It's like, we'll talk about that a little bit too. Aim high, but use as your control yourself. It's like, so your goal is to make today some tiny increment better than yesterday. And you can use better, you can define better yourself. This doesn't have to be some imposition of external morality. You know where you're weak and insufficient, where you could improve. Think, okay, well, this is what I'm like yesterday. If I did this little thing, things would be just an increment better. And well, that's a great thing, because you get the ball rolling, and incremental improvement is unstoppable. You can actually implement it, and it starts to generate Pareto distribution-like consequences. It starts to compound. And I've seen that happen in people's lives over and over. People write me all the time and tell me that they're doing that, but I've seen that happen in people's lives continually. They make a goal that the goal should be, how could I conceive of my life so that if I had that life, it would clearly be worth living, so I wouldn't have to be bitter, resentful, deceitful, arrogant, and vengeful. Like, that's sort of the bottom line, right? Because that's what endless failure does to you. It's not good. And that's what life without purpose and a goal does to you as well, because life is very hard. So you think, okay, well, I need to adopt a mode of being that would justify my suffering. And you can ask yourself that question. What would make this worthwhile? I quote Nietzsche, I think in that chapter, he said, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." That's a lovely line, man. I mean, it's a lovely line. And it's really worth thinking about. So you think, well, how do I manage all this misery and suffering and futility? It's like, well, I need to figure out what I would have to do in order to make that clearly worthwhile. And so then you have your goal, and then you think, well, I need to move towards that incrementally, because I'm kind of useless and can only do so much, and maybe not even that. But all I have to do is be a little bit better than my miserable self yesterday. And that'll propel you forward very rapidly, and you can succeed at it, which is also really lovely, because why not set yourself up for success? If you concentrate solely on your career, you can get a long way in your career. And I would say that that's a strategy that a minority of men preferentially do. That's all they do. They work like 70, 80 hours a week. They go flat out on their career. They're staking everything on the small probability of exceptional status in a narrow domain. but it's hard on them. They don't have a life. It's very difficult for them to have a family. It may be that unidimensionality is the price you have to pay to be exceptional at one thing, right? Because if you're going to be something like a genius level mathematician and you want to do that or a scientist, say, it's like you're in your lab all the time, you're working 70 hours a week or 80 hours a week, you're smart, you're dedicated, you're unidimensional, and that's how you get to beat all the other people who are doing that. It's the only way. But the problem is you don't get a life. Now, if you love being a scientist and you have that kind of focus of mind, well, first of all, you're a rare person, and second, you're going to pay for it. But fine, more power to you. But it's a risky business to do that. You sacrifice a lot for it. And I would say most often, if you're speaking about having a healthy life, that isn't what you do. You spread yourself out more. So, you have a family, you have some things that you do outside of work that are meaningful to you and useful. You have a network of friends. Well, those 3 things alone, or 4 things alone, are plenty to keep you well oriented. And then if one of those things collapses, everything doesn't go. Now, the price you pay for that is the more you strive to optimize that balance, the less likely you are to be fantastically successful at any single one of them. But you might have a very, if you consider your life as a whole, that might be a winning strategy. One of the things Carl Jung said, I really liked this. He thought that men went after perfection and women went after wholeness. So they're different value, they're different, there's something different at the top of the value hierarchy. So perfection would be stake it all on one thing and look for radical success. Not that all men do that, because they don't, but we're talking about extremes, at least with regards to the men that do that. The wholeness idea is more like, well, it's like I want one thing in my life to be 150%, or I want 5 things in my life to be 80%. Well, there's a lot more richness in a life where you have 5 things operating at 80%, but you're not operating at any of them at 150%. So, and I really believe this because I've watched men and women go through their careers now for a long period of time, and one of the things there's lots of things that produce this, but one of the things that I've noticed is that mostly women in their 30s bail out of unidimensional careers. They won't do them. They won't put in the 80 hours a week that they would have to put in order to dominate that particular area. And it isn't, the reason that they won't do it is because they decide it's not worth it. And no wonder, because why would that be worth it? You have to ask yourself that. It's like, well, you want to be an outstanding scientist. It's like, okay, really, that's what you want? Because that means that's what you do. Because you're competing with other people. They're smart, they're hardworking, and if you want to be at the top, you have to be smarter and work harder than any of them. And working hard means working long hours. I mean, it also means working diligently, but in the final analysis, it's also an additive issue. If I'm smart and hardworking and I can crank out for 70 hours a week, and you do it for 30, it's like, in 2 years, I'm so far ahead of you, you will never, ever catch up. Anyways. And I think maybe part of the reason too that women are oriented that way more than men, I think there's 2 reasons. One is socioeconomic status does not make women more attractive on the mating market, but it does make men more attractive. And the second is women's time frame is compressed, right? Because guys can always say, well, I'll have kids later. And they can say that till they're like 80. Whereas women, it's like, no way, man, you got to get it together by the time you're, let's say 40, but really probably by 35, but definitely by 40. Because otherwise it ain't happening. And that's bloody dreadful. Like, the most unhappy people you ever see, no. One of the common routes to extreme unhappiness is to want children and not have them. I wouldn't recommend that. Maybe you think, no, life isn't that hard. It's like, not only is it that hard, it's even harder than you think. So you're going to be tested, that's for sure. And if you have a sustaining meaning, then well, Nietzsche said himself, he who has a why can bear any how. Why would you look in the darkest places? Because in the darkest places you can find what still shines. If it can shine in the darkest places, then you know it's a real light. And so you look at things you don't want to look at. You have to look at the things you don't want to look at. Well, why do meaningful things? Well, first of all, what is meaning? But then why do meaningful things? And the answer is, well, because life is suffering and malevolence. It's ineradicable at its core. It's like, that will take you out. Make no mistake about it. You need something you need to be armed with virtue in order for that not to turn into hell. Really, you really need that. And it isn't just your hell, that's bad enough. That can be really bad, especially when you're contributing to it, right? Because then not only are you suffering, but you know you're the agent that's producing the suffering. And then maybe that's not just for you, it's like you're taking out your family. If you're really good at it, you're taking out large swaths of your community. That's hell. It's like, and that's real. And no one with any sense and any experience has any doubt that that's real. And then they all could easily think of how, even though it's already bad, you could make it way worse. Everyone knows that. So what's the bulwark against that? Nobility of purpose. That's it. You have that, then you can, then you have something to set against the suffering and the malevolence. And you need, it isn't optional. That's not optional. We cannot live without
Meaning is not optional, right?
Well, that's why it's such a deep instinct.
Right.
It's an instinct, meaning. It's the instinct of life. My life is meaningless. It's the spirit has gone out of you. It's like, well, modern people, it's part of this process of criticism. We criticize the idea of meaning so much that we don't really believe in it anymore. It's like, well, that's fine. You can not believe it, but try living without it and see how far you get with that. You need a reason to get out of bed on a terrible day. Okay, what's that reason going to be? Well, let's think it through. You know people who can get out of bed on a terrible day. Do you admire them? Yes. What are those people like? Are they taking responsibility for themselves? Definitely. Do they have excess capacity, so they're taking responsibility for other people? Yeah. Are they doing difficult things? Yes, obviously. The more you respect them, the more you also see that they're doing difficult things and doing them well. So what does that mean? Do some difficult things. Do them well. So pick up your goddamn burden and walk up the hill. So, yep, I get it. And people do get it. And it's not surprising because that is the end. That's the alternative to hell. Accept the burdensome condition of suffering voluntarily, and you transcend it. You've got a problem with the world? Hey man, no wonder you have a problem with the world. Like, the world is a pretty rough place and it could use some work. It's like, have you done all your work? If the answer to that is no, then I would say, put in order what you can put in order. It's like, well, you have a problem. Okay, what's the problem? What are its constituent elements? What are the smallest implementable steps that we could take to start to address the problem? Implement the best plan that you have at hand. That's it. You'll learn. It won't be the right plan. It doesn't matter. You'll learn. Implementing that plan, you'll learn a whole bunch, and then the next plan you make will be better. Implement the best plan you have at hand. Don't remain in stasis. You get old way, way faster than you think. Time ticks away, man. Get at it. Get out there in the world. Have your adventure. Get the hell out there. Do something. Fail. Fail while you're trying. Then you'll learn why you failed. Then you won't have to fail again. It's like, aim at something and progress towards it. Then, be willing to change your aim, because what the hell do you know? But aim at something, and then at least you're oriented. And you have to aim at something that you believe would be worth trying. So, yeah, get at it, man. Don't waste time.
I'll tell you a small story. I am a grandmother of 2 grandkids. Like today's how grandkids are there, they are like that, normal, okay? That means more talking and less listening. And my granddaughter's name is Krishna, and she told me, they live in London. One day I told her to eat banana fruit. We India consider it's a good fruit. Eat. And then she said me, Ajji, give me she calls me Ajji, like any Kannada grandmother is called, or Maharashtrian grandmother is called. She said, Ajji, give me a set of reasons why one should eat banana, a 5 years kid, okay? I said, okay, I will tell you a story, and then you feel like eating, you eat. I said, there was a rishi by the name Durvasa. I'm sure most of you know. Durvasa is the fellow, wherever he goes, he gives shapa, he curses. He gets so upset so fast. So there was a Rishi by the Durvasa who was a very short-tempered fellow. Whenever he used to go to anybody's place, they used to get scared of him. Why this fellow has come, let him go as early as possible. I'm sure when you are not a nice person, nobody welcomes you. One day his wife told him, look, people, when you go, people run away. Whereas I've stayed with you for such a long time, don't you think I deserve a boon or a special gift? First he was very upset, then he said, okay fine, I'll give you a special gift. What do you want? She said, I want a fruit which is not grown in Devaloka or up above heaven, which is grown on the earth. Yet it should be used to worship God. B, it should flower once a year and it should not have any seeds. C, all parts of that tree should be used in cooking. D, it should flower, it should give fruits only once in a year, and the fruit should be not messy kind, not like a mango or apple. And such fruit, without giving that to God, the puja will be incomplete. He said, okay. He made a tree and gave the fruit to the God, and then he called that, her name was Kadali, so he called that fruit the Kadali Phala. Kadali in Sanskrit became banana in English later. So whatever banana tree you see, that is the intelligence of a woman who told her husband the kind of fruit which is easy to eat, whose leaves are used for eating, whose bark is in the stem is used in cooking, whose flower is used in the cooking, which flowers once a year, and there are no seeds. So I told, it's such a great fruit on the earth. If you don't want to eat Krishna, you don't have to eat. But only learned people eat this one. Suddenly Krishna became upset. No, I want to be a learned person, and took the banana and ate. What I'm telling you is, every generation, it's really wrong to tell that our generation has a lot more stress. That is totally wrong. Parents, please remove it from your head in case you have such things. I was in Egypt about 15 years back. Then I took one Egyptology, that is a person who knows how to read hieroglyphy, who knows more about Egyptian history, and went to one place which is 7,000 years old, and there I saw the pyramid. Inside the pyramid there was hieroglyphy, so I asked that fellow, what it is written here, you tell me. This fellow told me, the builder of Egypt pyramid have written about next generation. Next generation doesn't respect time, doesn't respect money, doesn't respect elders. They have less common sense, they are less hardworking. I really do not know how they will survive. Suddenly I felt like, my parents talking to me like that. Every generation feels next generation is less than ours. We are very hardworking, we talk. No, that is really not true. Every generation has their own plus and minus, some totally same. Any mathematics teacher or any students who love mathematics will appreciate this. What is 1 by 2? Half. 1 by 2 is 2 by 4. It is also equal to 3 by 6. It's also equal to 4 by 8. It's also equal to 16 by 32. The moment I say 1 by 2 and 16 by 32, 16 is a huge number, 1 is small, but the ratio remains the same. And that is the way every generation has their own plus minus, their own strengths, okay, their own stress. You should never do anything totally free to anybody, including your children. No, don't do. You can get everything in life except parents' love. They're all really true, but don't do it free, because it really becomes extremely expensive at the end. So always you assign certain amount of money. What? I want water in a glass. Oh, that way. Highly high tech, No, I want in a glass. Glass is fine. You should never do any project free with anybody, because free is never respected. Free has its own backlog. Free has its own expensive methodologies to find out. Never do that. I'll give you a small example. I grew up in a village known as Shiggaon, 30 kilometers from Hubli, and I was extremely fond of atlas. That is school atlas, and it was not available in our village. So I said once, when I grow up, if I have money, I'll buy a lot of atlas and give it to every school, because there may be many children like me, they would like to read the atlas. The intention was genuine, methodology was wrong. So I bought a lot of atlas and I gave it to many schools, and I always assumed, they are using and the children are enjoying. After a year or two, once I was traveling in some village, it was evening time, 5 o'clock. It was groundnut season, in village you get groundnut, they sell in the evening 5 o'clock. If you are from village, you will understand that. Fresh groundnut. So I went to I was on the road and I said, can I have half a kg of groundnut? That fellow weighed and told me, you take it. I said, I don't have any bag. So there was there was no plastic bag there, and it was good there was no plastic bag. Then he said, if you have in a paper, you give it to me. He said, I don't have. Then I said, then I don't want. He said, he never wanted to lose a customer like me. He said, okay, don't worry. He tells somebody, there is a lady, foolish lady by the name Sudha Murthy. She has given atlas. That paper is very good. Tear 2 pages. Okay, bring it here and you can put the groundnuts on that. That time I realized, anything you give free, people will misuse. Next time onwards I said, okay, 2 rupees. It may cost me 200, but I will charge at least 2 rupees or maybe 10 rupees, some range, then only I will give it to you. I can give you numerous examples because I work in 6 states in India: Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, Orissa, Maharashtra, and off late, in Punjab. I can give numerous examples, every state. Thank you very much. Every state, the methodology is different, but people will not respect anything you give free. This is the second lesson I learned in philanthropy. Third one, I will tell you, how people change their mindset once you start giving, because if there is no exit policy, then how people take advantage of the situation. I used to come to my office every day, and one boy I saw on the road, smart boy, every day when there is a traffic light and my car will stop, he will come and he will ask me every day without fail a pair of shoelace. And I will tell him, no, I don't want, because I wear chappals. But he will ask. And I always felt that boy is very smart. And one day, once if you are a woman and if you are a teacher and you are a computer system analyst, you talk 3 times more than a normal person. And I'm teacher, I'm a female, and I was also a system analyst. So 2 to the power of 3 I can talk. So I talked to him and I asked him, what's your name? Some name, he said. Then say, what do you study? He said, no, I go to school, but I can't study much because morning to evening I have to stand here and sell shoelaces. I said, how much profit do you make? I said, I sell about 10 rupees per day or some 20 rupees per day. Actually, he told me 20 rupees per day. Then I told him, look, I will give you 600 rupees per month. You go to school. Then again I have a methodologist to check. I said, but you have to come every month and take the money from my office. And once in a year you have to show me your progress report. He said, okay, and every month he will come first week. He will take 600 rupees, and once in a quarter he will show his progress report, 6 months, 1 year, it went on. After 3 years, my secretary said he wants to meet me. I said, he's doing well, why he wants to meet me? No, he's very particular that he wants to meet you. Actually, when people say they want to meet me, I get scared actually for various reasons. One is, what is the next application? That is always in my mind. Second thing is that they call me for some function, because I really feel I cannot talk other than the subject, anything else. Someone called me for a medical conference. I said, what can I talk in medical conference? So I really don't understand why people have to invite me for subject which I am not related. So I said, anyway, this boy, why is asking? Anyway, let me go and meet him. I met him. He tells me, ma'am, here afterwards you have to give me 900 rupees. I said, why? He said, the shoelace price has gone up by 10. 30 rupees a pair of shoelace. We need money in certain area, and we don't need money in certain area. When they are teenagers, they don't require. According to me, when they are teenagers, they don't require. I always ask them, okay, what do you want? You give me the list. Pen, pencil, book, whatever you want. Give me the list. I will buy. Or I will come with you, you buy, I will pay the money. bill. Why do you want money, for what reason? Or if I give 10 rupees, I will ask receipt for everything. Because money is a double-edged sword in life. And when you are a teenager and your parents are well off, my both children used to tell, press writes that I own this much, you own this much. In real life, not even 10 rupees. Before 18, I never gave. I said, tell me what do you want? You want dress? Okay, I will come with you. Give me a reason why do you need independent money, for what reason? When you cannot explain that to your parents, that means it's not a correct way. That's my argument. Money is required. I don't say money is not required. Money is required to buy a house, medical expenses, your education, you want to travel. But how much you require, that is left to you. For someone, 1 crore is too much. For somebody, 10 crore is much less. For someone, 100 crore may not be sufficient. For someone, 1,000 crore is probably it's too small amount. How much you require and how much you should own, how much you should keep, and what is excess, is everybody's answer is different. So I will never say money is not important. Your answer is important to you. I was working near Swami Mala in Tamil Nadu about 20 years back, and it was pouring actually one night. It started pouring, and normally when it starts pouring, your car gets stuck. I have always seen that one, including in the movie. Okay. My car got stuck, and my driver told, you stay in there's a nearby temple, you go and stay there. I will get it repaired and I come. And I went there. There was not any hero there, there was a blind man. A blind was there and his wife, blind Archaka and his wife. A blind Pandit and his wife were staying. And he gave me a big lesson in life. I felt bad for him. He was an old man, 8 years, no money. I put 100 rupees and he touched he did Aarti, and he told me this is too much money. I said, no sir, you give me your name and name, I will send you 20,000 rupees. It may be useful to you in life. Because you are old, both of you are old. I said, beta, I don't know who you are, but I want to tell you something in life. Don't ever do this mistake. I said, what? Is it not good to give money? He said, no. If you give money, it is a headache to me, because all these days, the villagers look after me. The moment you give 20,000, I put it in a bank or a post, then people would like, I should die one day and they should get the money. They don't even help. What Lord has given is more than enough. Beta, please remember, in life you have to draw. Enough is enough. And that drawing a line is left to you. And that's the reason I tell everyone, how much you want. I'm not sitting here and telling you 20,000 is enough, 2 lakhs is enough, 20 crore is enough. No, I don't have any right. You are the one which is enough, which is more, which you do not want more than that. You decide. I wrote this book, Serpent Revenge and Other Stories, because as a child I used to ask so many questions, and my parents, my grandparents did not know the answer. They said, don't ask questions in Mahabharata and all, because they themselves did not know. So I just kept my questions with me, and when I grew up, I read about 10 to 20 different Mahabharatas and logically deducted what it could have been the answer. You should always encourage children to ask questions, and if you do not know answers, don't act. Tell, I do not. There is nothing wrong. There is no Sarvajna in life. There is nobody who knows everything. There is no one. Second thing, today there is a Google. If you don't tell, they will Google and find out, and they will tell, oh, mom told me a lie. Don't get into that. Said, beta, I do not know. I will see that. I will read and I will get back to you. So it is not easy to be a parent. Actually, it is quite a responsible job, but it is also a joyous job. You can see the creativity of a child from a toddler to an LKG to first standard, questioning habits, and then passing the examination, and then turning out to be a fine lady or gentleman. It's such a beautiful. It's like see a small plant growing up to a big tree. You can witness that, and what you can do is affectionately to look after without expecting anything from them. Please remember, you are not a money lender. I spent so much money on you, and in my old age you should return. No. We bring up children for our joy. We brought them up, we have to bring them up. It's such a beautiful joy. It's a God's gift to us. Also, it's a responsibility. And if you understand what to do, what not to do, I'm sure you will have a great journey with your children. As a mother, I want to tell you, girls will not listen to you after 14 years. Girls will, about 12, 13 years, girls become little upset, may not tell everything, but they become great friends after 19. Boys will be very affectionate to mothers up to 14. After that, they have their whole world and they look down upon cricket is the greatest thing, other things are less and all those, because it is all cycles, So enjoy your boys up to 14, enjoy your girls after 19. You should talk it out, even though they may not like it. Parents, I used to tell my daughter that about you, someone should not come and tell me. About you, you should tell yourself. You want to tell anything, parents? Parents, keep the channels open, don't close. Closing is the worst thing in life. If the child is scared of you, that's the worst thing in life. Then they will tell somebody. Or who can tell them the best advice other than mother? So please keep the channels open. You may not like it at times. Many times actually, you don't like it, okay? But allow them to talk to you. And explain to them in case you are not happy, why. Children are very logical, they understand why you cannot accept. And when you accept with your conditions, please keep the channel open. You should not make them get scared. I'm scared to tell my mother means there's something is gone wrong. Don't do that. Parents, keep the channels open. Children, even though mother scolds you, but still you have to talk to her, because that is the only, everything in this life has a price. Anything including this bottle, everything has a price, except mother's love. It is one thing which is priceless, which is unconditional. She may get upset now. After 5 minutes, she'll be all right. Mothers, don't get upset. Even though you are upset, don't show at that moment. You cool down and accept it. Don't show you are very upset and crying, beating. Don't do that. First you listen. If you are upset, okay, better I'll talk to you after half an hour. By half an hour, you also cool down. Because it's very natural when you are young, you get upset. At my age, I don't get upset because my age is also an advantage. So, please don't show you are upset. Talk to them. If you are upset, talk after half an hour. After half an hour, you will be normal. Coming to parents now, once upon a time with the small children in the school. And one thing I learned, there are three types of competition. One is competition in the market, okay, or in the school, or in the field. Most parents will have competition with their children. What is your son scored? I never ask that one. How much your son scored and how much my son scored and compare. Don't do that. It is not good for you and worse for your child. Every flower is beautiful, but it's in own way. You cannot say rose is better, hibiscus is not. No. Hibiscus has its own property, its own color, its own volume, and it looks different. Every child is a flower by himself or herself. Do not compare. And when my children used to appear for the exam, they get marks, I will just keep quiet. I have seen many parents, because I came from a teacher's family, I understood what it is. But I have seen parents, they will retotal it. Okay? They retotal, not the child. The child is very happy to play outside. Oh, teacher has not given 1 mark here. In programming, there is 1 mark less. Out of 10, she has given 9. But it's the real problem, the programming is really right. So he or she should get 10. Next day they come with that, sir, you should give my child, or madam, you should give 10 marks. Okay. Due to some reason, the child, what happens while correcting paper, even as a teacher I know. For us, between 9 and 10, there is not much difference. It is very, very good. Okay, logically, handwrite, everything is good, give 10. Little bit of the difference is there, give 9. Okay, that's the way. Normally, I never used to give 10 marks to anybody. Always keep them a little low. Always we prefer to give, as a teacher, you don't want to give 100 out of 100 in language at least. No language other than Sanskrit you can get 100 out of 100. Because language is individual taste. In mathematics and all, you cannot help it, because logically you should do that one. But still, if the child gets 99, parents said, I have seen so many parents telling their child, the child comes with the report, I got 95. Instead of being happy for 95, where did you lose the remaining 5 marks? Don't ever do that. If you burn them when they are young, they will be burnt out by the time they come to college. And you regret for that. Don't make your child burnt out by the age of 14 or 16 or 18. They have big life ahead. You want your child should, what is your aim in life actually? You should question that. What is your aim in life? I want my child should get always first rank. It is not possible, because this world has many bright people, many scoring people, many good people. Not that nobody can remain the zenith for a long time. Nobody, including Bill Gates. Nobody can remain. Because Mother Earth, in one of these classics, Bahuratnani Vasundhara, it says, oh Mother Earth, you have many Kohinoor diamonds with you. Not one Kohinoor, many Kohinoor diamonds. So, your child has many things which is inside. Don't ever think why the child lost 5 marks. Be happy, he got 95. That means almost 5 marks he missed to the perfection. Be happy. Don't go on adding marks and quizzing the teacher why he should not get 10 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Okay, teacher will say, okay, take one more mark, doesn't matter. But by the time you do, your child observes. Please remember, role models are not Sudha Murthy. Role models to your children are parents. How your mother talks, what lies she tells. Not the father is later, first is mother. That's something we call a mother tongue. And every mother thinks the child is an extension of her body. It's a reality. When the child cries, why mother? The child is crying, mother is not crying. Nothing happened to mother. The child is hurt, but mother cries. Because every woman, it is biologically and psychologically, the child is extension of her body. If something happens to the child, mother cannot take it. There's a very unusual, unconditional love God has gifted between mother and a child. So you have more responsibility than father. Whatever you do, your child will absorb that like a sponge. Suppose you lie on the telephone. The child says, okay, that is the correct way, you and I should do that. If you compare 95 to 100, when the child grows big and gets a job, he compares himself or herself with his colleague, what promotion he got. Today you compare for marks, tomorrow they compare for grading, or they compare for the promotions, salary. It is nothing like, I don't say you should not compare. Where you are needed to compare, to learn something new, yes, you have to compare. With whom you have to compete then? You have to compete within yourself.
If the power that created us has given us enough breath to last for as long as we shall live, can we not begin to trust that the other things will take care of themselves? See, life is here for us. Life is here to support us, to take care of us, to be here for us. The entire planet has been put here for us to play with. We have everything that we shall ever need. It's already here. Only we have to know it, and we have to trust it, and we have to acknowledge it.
Most of us choose to think the same kinds of thoughts our parents used to think. But we don't have to continue to do this. There is no law written that says we can only think in one way. Whatever you choose to believe becomes truthful. Examine your thoughts. Whatever we believe becomes true for us. If you have a sudden financial disaster, then on some level you may believe you are unworthy of being comfortable with money, or you believe in burdens and debt, or you believe that nothing good ever lasts. Do you believe that life is out to get you? Or, as I hear so often, I just can't win? If you seem unable to attract a relationship, you may believe nobody loves me, or I am unlovable. Perhaps you fear being dominated as your mother was, or maybe you think people are just out to hurt me. If you have poor health, you may believe illness runs in our family, or that you are a victim of the weather. Or perhaps it's I was born to suffer, or it's just one thing after another. Or you may have a different belief. Perhaps you're not even aware of your belief. Most people really aren't. They just see the outer circumstances as being the way the cookie crumbles. Until someone can show you the connection between the outer experience and the inner thought, you remain a victim of life. The problem could be a financial disaster, and the belief may be, I'm not worthy of having money. Or the problem could be no friends, with the belief nobody loves me. or problems with work could come from a belief that I'm not good enough. Or always pleasing others could be the problem that comes from the belief I never get my way. The problem comes from a thought pattern, and thought patterns can be changed. It may feel true, it may seem true, all these problems we're wrestling with and juggling in our lives. However, no matter how difficult an issue we are dealing with, it is only an outer result or the effect of an inner thought pattern. If you don't know what thoughts are creating your problems, look at the problems in your life. Ask yourself, what kinds of thoughts am I having that are creating these? If you allow yourself to sit quietly, your inner intelligence will show you the answer. It's only a belief you learned as a child. Some of the things we believe are positive and nourishing. These thoughts serve us well all of our lives, such as look both ways before you cross the street. Other thoughts are very useful at the beginning, but as we grow older, they are no longer appropriate. Don't trust strangers may be good advice for a small child, but for an adult, to continue this belief will only create isolation and loneliness. We so seldom sit down and ask ourselves, is this really true? For instance, why do I believe things like, it's difficult for me to learn? Is that true for me now? Where did that belief come from? Do I still believe it because a first grade teacher told me that over and over? Would I be better off if I dropped that belief? Beliefs that boys don't cry and girls don't climb trees create men who hide their feelings and women who are afraid to be physical. If we were taught as a child that the world is a frightening place, then everything we hear that fits that belief we will accept as true for us. The same is true for don't trust strangers, don't go out at night, or people cheat you. On the other hand, if we could be taught early in life that the world is a safe place, then we would hold other beliefs. We could easily accept that love is everywhere, and people are so friendly, and I always have whatever I need. If you were taught as a child that it's all my fault, then you will walk through your life feeling guilty no matter what happens. Your belief will turn you into someone who's constantly saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. If you learn to believe as a child, I don't count, then this belief will always keep you at the end of the line wherever you are. Sometimes you will feel you're invisible when others fail to notice you. Did your childhood circumstances teach you to believe nobody loves me? Then surely you will be lonely. Even when you bring a friend or a relationship into your life, it will be short-lived. Did your family teach you there is not enough? Then I'm sure you often feel as though the cupboard is bare, or you find you just get by, or are always in debt. I had a client who had been brought up in a household where they believed everything is wrong and can only get worse. His main joy in life was playing tennis, and then he hurt his knee. He went to every doctor he could find, and it only became worse, and finally could not play at all. Another person had been brought up as a preacher's son, and as a child he was taught that everybody else comes first. The preacher's family always came last. Today he's wonderful at helping his clients get the best deal, yet he's usually in debt with little pocket money. His belief still makes him last in line. If you believe it, it seems true. How often have we said, that's the way I am, or that's the way it is? Those words are saying that that's what we believe to be true for us. Usually what we believe is someone else's opinion we have incorporated into our belief systems. No doubt it fits right in with all the other things we believe. Are you one of the many people who will get up in the morning, see that it's raining, and say, oh, what a lousy day? It is not a lousy day. It is only a wet day. If we wear the appropriate clothing and change our attitude, we can have a lot of rainy day fun. If it is really our belief that rainy days are lousy days, then we will always greet rain with a sinking heart. We will fight the day rather than flow with what is happening at the moment. There is no good or bad weather. There is just weather and our individual reactions to it. If we want a joyous life, we must think joyous thoughts. If we want a prosperous life, we must think prosperous thoughts. If we want a loving life, we must think loving thoughts. Whatever we send out mentally or verbally will come back to us in like form. Each moment is a new beginning. The point of power is always in the present moment. You are never stuck. This is where changes take place, right here and right now in our own minds. Doesn't matter how long we've had a negative pattern, or an illness, or a poor relationship, or lack of finances, or self-hatred. We can begin to make a shift today. Your problem no longer needs to be the truth for you. It can now fade back to the nothingness from whence it came. You can do it. Remember, you are the only person that thinks in your mind.
Trust your inner wisdom. Deep at the center of our being, there is an infinite well of love, an infinite well of joy, an infinite well of peace, and an infinite well of wisdom. This is true for each and every one of us. Yet how often do we get in touch with these treasures within us? Do we do it once a day, once in a while? Or are we totally unaware that we have these inner treasures? Just for a moment, close your eyes and connect with that part of yourself. It only takes a breath to go to your center. Go to that infinite well of love within you and feel the love, and let it grow and expand. Go to that infinite well of joy within you. Feel the joy. Let it grow and expand. Now go to that infinite well of peace within you and feel that peace. Let it grow and expand. And now go to that infinite well of wisdom within you, that part of you that is totally connected to all the wisdom in the universe, past, present, and future. Trust that wisdom. Let it grow and expand. And as you take another breath and come back to your space, keep the knowledge, keep the feeling. And many times today, and many, many times tomorrow, and each and every day of your life, remind yourself of the treasures that are always within you, and just a breath away. These treasures are a part of your spiritual connection and are vital to your well-being. Body, mind, and spirit. We need to be balanced on all three levels. A healthy body, a happy mind, and a good, strong spiritual connection are all necessary for our overall balance and harmony. One of the major benefits of a strong spiritual connection is that we can live wonderful, creative, fulfilling lives. And we will automatically release so many burdens that most people carry. We will no longer need to be fearful or carry shame and guilt. As we feel our oneness with all of life, we will drop anger and hatred, prejudice, and the need to be judgmental. As we become one with the healing power of the universe, we will no longer need illness. And I believe we will be able to reverse the aging process. Burdens are what age us. they drag down our spirits. We can change the world. If each one of us listening to this tape would practice getting in touch with the treasures within us on a daily basis, we could literally change the world. People living the truth change the world. For the truth of our being is that we are filled with unconditional love. We are filled with incredible joy. We are filled with serene peace, and we are connected to infinite wisdom. What we need to do is to know it and live it. Today, we are mentally preparing for tomorrow. The thoughts we think, the words we speak, the beliefs we accept shape our tomorrows. I suggest every morning you stand in front of a mirror and affirm to yourself out loud if you can, I am filled with unconditional love, and I express it today. I am filled with joy, and I express it today. I am filled with peace, and I share it today. I am filled with infinite wisdom, and I practice it today, and this is the truth about me. Now that is a powerful way to start your day, and you can do it. Remember, our spiritual connection does not need a middleman, such as a church, a guru, or even a religion. We can pray and meditate quite easily by ourselves. Churches and gurus and religions are nice if they are supportive of the individual. Yet it is important that we know that we all have a direct pipeline to the source of all of life. When we are consciously connected to this source, our life flows in wondrous ways. So how do we become connected or reconnected? For we were all well connected when we first came into this world. Perhaps our parents had lost their own connection and taught us that we were alone and lost in life. Perhaps our parents' parents had chosen a religion that gave power to the priesthood and not to the people. There are several religions that tell us we are born sinners and lower than the worms of the dust. There are also religions that denigrate women and/or certain classes or groups of people. These are some of the ways we forget who we really are, divine, magnificent expressions of life. Yet our souls are always seeking greater growth and integration, an opportunity to heal and express all that we are. Sometimes it is very difficult to understand the methods our souls use to promote our growth. Our personalities, the part of us we assume in order to participate on the earth plane, have certain expectations and needs. We become afraid, resistant, and sometimes angry when our expectations, such as material advancements, aren't immediately met. It is in these moments more than any other that we must hold fast to our faith that there is a higher power working in our lives, and that if we are open and willing to grow and change, that things will work out for our highest good. Often our most painful moments, the times that stretch our personality the furthest, are the moments that provide us with the greatest opportunity for growth. These become an occasion for you to develop greater self-love and greater self-trust. It may or may not comfort you to know that many people are seemingly experiencing setbacks in their lives as well. We are at a place of accelerated growth on this planet. Now more than ever is the time to be extra loving and patient with yourself. Do not resist any opportunity for growth. We all have a lot of foolish ideas about life and what we believe about ourselves. And we have so many rigid rules about how life should be lived. But you see, we can't really do anything about the past. That's all done now. And everything you have experienced in your life up to this moment, you have created by your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs
of yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, however far you go back. However, I repeat, the point of power is always in the present moment, which means that what you are choosing to begin to think right here and right now is going to create tomorrow and next week and next month and next year. The past has no power over us. The point of power is in this present moment, and we can begin to be free right here and right now. We do choose our own thoughts. We may not think so, but we do. It seems to me that almost everyone on this planet, myself included, and everyone I've ever worked with, is suffering from self-hatred and guilt to one degree or another. The more of it we have, the less our life is. And the less of it we have, the better our life is. It's like the bottom line for almost everyone that I know is, I'm not good enough. And we often add to that belief, and I don't do enough. And I don't deserve it. Now, if we have a very strong belief in our subconscious mind, which to me is right here in the gut, that I'm not good enough and I don't deserve, then it's going to be extremely difficult for us to create a life that really works in all categories. Now you see, no matter what the circumstances, we are only dealing with a thought. I don't believe in giving power to outer effects. We may think that being broke is the problem. I see this as the outer effect of an inner problem. It's the inner thought patterns which create these effects. I have discovered that patterns of resentment and criticism and fear and guilt cause more problems in our lives than anything else. Even on the physical level, resentment that is held for a long time and literally eats at the way of the body can become cancer. Criticism that's indulged for a long time can also lead to conditions like arthritis. And if you look at arthritic hands, you can almost see the criticism. Fear can contribute to anything from baldness to poor feet. And guilt always creates pain. Guilt seeks punishment, and punishment creates pain. So if someone comes to me that is in chronic pain, I know they're dealing with old guilt patterns. Love and joy and forgiveness are the big healers. They all come from the heart. The heart represents love, and the blood in the body is joy. So a normal, healthy heart lovingly pumps joy throughout the body, nourishing all the cells and organs, creating a loving, joyous atmosphere for the cells to do their working. If a heart has lost its ability to express love and joy, the forgiveness will open the door. Most of our problems come from blaming others, from not taking responsibility for ourselves. And as I said, if it is true that we are all responsible for everything in our lives, then there's no one to blame, not even ourselves. And every outer experience is only a mirror of our inner thought patterns.